There are four human blood types in the ABO blood group. There's type A, type B, type AB, and type O. Inheritance of blood type is determined by one gene that has three different alleles. There is the A allele, the B allele, and the O allele. Now, what you see in parentheses is the official scientific way of rating the alleles. And so as we go through blood types, I'm going to show you both ways. I'm going to show you the more common way, which just uses the letters A, B, and O. And I'm also going to show you the more scientific way. And when we do Punnett squares, you can choose which way you want to do them. But you should be familiar with how each one looks. So the inheritance of these alleles are as follows. The A allele is dominant, the B allele is dominant, and the O allele is recessive. Therefore, the ABO blood group follows two different patterns of inheritance, and both of these patterns happen to be modern genetics. We've got multiple allele, in which we have three possible alleles that could be inherited. You could inherit the A, the B, or the O allele. And we also have codominance, in which we have two things that are dominant at the same time. We have A and B, which are both dominant. For blood types, as with all other traits, your genotype represents what you have inherited from your parents. You receive one allele from your mother, and you receive one allele from your father for each of your genes. Blood type genotypes can be written two different ways. The scientific way, which uses the A and the superscript, the B superscript, or the common way, where we would just write A, B, and O for the alleles. The table below shows the genotypes responsible for each blood type. So if we have the phenotype type A blood, there's two different genotypes that could give that to us. We could have inherited two A alleles and be AA, or we could have inherited one A and one O. Remember, A is dominant and O is recessive. So if we have an A allele and an O allele, we're going to have the A blood type. Type B, you could have inherited two capital Bs, BB, or you could have inherited a B allele and an O allele. For type AB blood, there's only one possible genotype. To have type AB blood, which is the codominant blood type, you have to have inherited an A allele and a B allele. And there's only one blood type or one genotype for type O blood, and that would be inheriting two O alleles. For blood type problems we do in class, you can write genotypes either the scientific way or the common way. But as I said before, just be familiar with both ways. So if you see either one, you can recognize what's going on. Also, be sure you understand the difference between blood type phenotypes and blood type genotypes. Genotypes are the alleles that a person has inherited from their parents. The phenotype is the blood type a person has. So make sure you can make that distinction between a blood type genotype versus a blood type phenotype. So the cells in our body have marker molecules on their surface that tells the body what kind of cell that it is. Antigens are what we call these markers. And so this is so that our body recognizes the cells that belong to us. If the antigen is not recognized by the body, the immune system sees it as an invader and begins to attack. So if your body sees an antigen that they're not familiar with, they immediately see it as an invader and they're going to attack to protect you from whatever might be trying to infect you. So we have antigens on our blood cells. So the various antigens that we have on our red blood cells determine our blood type. Type A blood cells have antigen A on their surface, which is why they're the A blood cells. Type B blood cells have the antigen B on their surface. Type AB blood cells have both the antigen A and the antigen B on their surface, where type O blood cells have no antigens on their surface at all. For blood types to be compatible in a blood transfusion, the donor's blood cells and the recipient's blood cells must have matching antigens. If the antigens do not match, the immune system proteins in the recipient's blood called antibodies begin to attack the foreign blood that does not belong. So if you have A blood, that means you have B antibodies ready to attack any B antigens that enter your body. If you have B blood, you have A antigens that are waiting to attack any A antibodies that are waiting to attack any A antigens that enter your blood. If you have A and B antigens on your blood cell, you're not going to have any antibodies because otherwise you'd be attacking your own blood all the time. But if you have type O blood with no antigens, you have both A and B antibodies ready to fight off either A or B blood. When the antibodies attack, this results in agglutination. The incompatible blood cells begin to clump together. This can cause serious complications and even death. So here's an example. Patient 1, since she has the A antigen on her red blood cells, that means she has type A blood, which means she also has the type B antibodies that are willing to protect her against the B antigen. So if we have these 4 individuals, type A, type B, type AB, and type O, which blood types can successfully be donated to our patient number 1? Any blood with the B antigen will be attacked by the patient's B antibodies. Therefore, only type A and type O can be given to the patient successfully. Here we have patient number 2. He has the B antigen on his red blood cells, which means he has type B blood. So which blood types can successfully be donated to our patient number 2? In this case, any blood with the A antigen will be attacked by the patient's A antibodies. Therefore, only type B and type O blood can be given to this patient successfully. Patient number 3. This patient has the A and the B antigen on her red blood cells. So that means she has type AB blood. Notice that she doesn't have any antibodies. And that's because any antibodies would attack her own blood, and we don't want that to happen. So now in this case, which blood can be successfully donated to our patient number 3? The codominant type AB blood has both A and B antigens and no antibodies. Therefore, type AB, type A, type B, and type O can all be given to the patient. Our patient number 3 can accept all 4 kinds of blood. And patient number 4. Patient number 4's red blood cells don't have any antigens. That means patient number 4 has type O blood. And he has both antibodies ready to protect. So which blood types can successfully be donated to this patient? Any blood with the A antigen will be attacked by the patient's A antibodies, and any blood with the B antigen will be attacked by the patient's B antibodies. Therefore, only type O can be given to our patient number 4. That's the only blood that won't be attacked by his antibodies. Now, based on that information, the table below shows the compatible blood types between donors and recipients. So you can see in the first column what blood each type could receive from, and on the other side, you can see what blood type they could donate to. Here's another way of looking at that blood type compatibility chart. Now, based on the information that we just saw, one type of blood can be considered the universal recipient. That is an individual who can receive all types of blood. And in this case, type AB would be the universal recipient. There's also a universal donor, and that would be an individual who can donate to all types of blood. And in this case, it would be type O. And this just gives you some information about universal recipients and universal donors. And now here are some example Punnett squares that go through how this would be done. In this example, we're crossing a parent that has type AB blood with a parent that has type O blood. And you can see I've done the Punnett squares both ways, both the common way as well as the scientific way. And then you can see what possible genotypes and what possible phenotypes would result. In this problem, we're now crossing a heterozygous type B individual with an individual that has type AB blood. Again, you can see the common as well as the scientific way of doing the Punnett squares. And then you can see the possible genotypes and phenotypes of the offspring. Now, what we just did in that slideshow, that is the stuff you're going to need to make sure you understand and know for our genetics unit and our genetics test. These remaining slides are some additional information that has to do with the Rh factor. So oftentimes when we hear about blood, we don't just hear type A, type B, type AB, type O. Oftentimes we hear AB positive or O negative. And that has to do with another antigen on our blood cells that's called the Rh factor. So in addition to the ABO blood group, there is another blood group called Rh. There are two human blood types in this group. There's type Rh positive and there's type Rh negative. Inheritance of the Rh factor is determined by Mendelian inheritance. The Rh positive is dominant over the Rh negative, which is recessive. Now, when scientists are doing Punnett squares to show this, we call the Rh trait the D trait. So again, make sure you understand the difference between Rh factor phenotypes and blood type genotypes. So you can see the genotypes on one side, which correspond to the phenotypes that are on the other. The various antigens on our red blood cells determine our Rh factor. So if you are Rh positive, it means you've got those antigens. If you're Rh negative, your blood cells do not have that antigen. So Rh plus blood cells have the Rh antigen on their surface. Rh negative blood cells have no Rh antigen on their surface. For blood types to be compatible in a blood transfusion, remember the donor's blood cells and the recipient's blood cells must have matching antigens. Remember, if the antigens do not match, the recipient's antibodies begin to attack the foreign blood that does not belong, resulting in agglutination. So if the recipient is Rh positive, they've got those antigens on their surface, they have no antibodies to fight off anything, which means they could accept any blood in terms of the Rh factor. If a person has no Rh antigens, they are Rh negative, that means their antibodies will be positive and they will fight off any type of positive blood they are given. So here we have patient 1. She has the positive antigen on her surface, so that means she's Rh positive. Which blood types can be successfully donated to our patient number 1? Rh positive blood has no antibodies. Therefore, Rh positive and Rh negative blood can both be given to the patient. So she could accept either type. Now, patient number 2 has no Rh antigens, so this makes patient number 2 Rh negative. He has the Rh positive antibodies to fight off any positive blood. So which blood types can successfully be donated to our patient number 2? Any blood with the Rh positive antigen will be attacked by the patient's Rh positive antibodies. Therefore, only Rh negative can be given to the patient. The table below shows the compatible blood types between donors and recipients, which we just saw in those 2 examples we looked at. Now here we're getting to be a little bit more complicated. We have patient number 3, and we're looking at both ABO and Rh. So if we look at patient number 3, she has A antigens and B antigens on her blood cells, which means she is AB negative. Negative because she doesn't have any positive antigens. So knowing that she is AB negative, which blood types can be successfully donated to this patient? Since this patient is AB negative, she can receive blood with the A or B antigen, but cannot receive any with the Rh factor. So that means she could have O negative, A negative, B negative, or AB negative blood. And this patient, he has only the Rh antigen on his blood cells. This means that he is O positive. O because he doesn't have any A or B antigens, but he does have the positive. So which blood types can successfully be donated to this patient? This patient is O positive. Therefore, he cannot receive blood with the A or B antigen, but he can receive blood with or without the Rh factor. So that means he could be given O positive or O negative blood. So now if we're considering both ABO and Rh, the table to the right shows the compatible blood types between donors and recipients. Here's another way of looking at that blood compatibility. And if we're looking at the ultimate universal recipient, considering both ABO and Rh, an individual who can receive all types of blood would be type AB positive. The ultimate universal donor, considering both ABO and Rh, this would be an individual who can donate to all types of blood, and that would be O negative. The following slides just have information about each type of blood, which you can look at on your own.